What's up, Well That's Good fam?
Welcome back to Well That's Good.
Welcome back to the Well That's Good podcast.
Quit it.
People are so engaged now.
No, they're not. They're turning this off right now. They're like, oh gosh, here they are again with their weird intros.
No, here they're saying, oh my gosh, I've been waiting so long for Christian to be back on the podcast.
Do you know when you're not here, my intro is dialed into a T?
Well, do you know that when I'm not here, the viewership is way down?
Yeah, right. What's up, friends? Welcome back to Whoa, That's Good Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope you're having a great week, but guess what?
It's about to get better.
You do listen to my podcast. Well, we are going to be answering DMs today. This is an ongoing podcast Christian and I do where we go into the DMs and answer them. And this week, we are actually going to be answering DMs about love.
You gotta prolong it.
What do you mean?
About love.
Oh, about love. Because we just had our book come out, How to Put Love First, a 90-day challenge, which I am so excited to tell y'all. We are going to do something very fun in the new year. So be looking on my Instagram. I'm going to make 2 announcements coming up soon about a really awesome giveaway we're doing. And if you are in a relationship, you're going to be very excited about maybe entering to win this because it's going to be super fun. And if you're not in a relationship and if you just are learning more about love itself, which is the love of God, then get ready for what we have to announce for the new year. So fun stuff to come ahead. But for today, we're going to be answering some of these questions about love. This is so fun. We really don't look at this much before we answer it. So it's kind of just off the cuff thoughts that we have to y'all's DMs. And, years ago, I decided not to read my DMs because it just gets too crazy and you can't really control what you're going to see when you open it. And so we decided, okay, instead of me reading DMs and responding to them all the time, why don't we let my team go in and pick out some of y'all's DMs that are really thoughtful and great questions. And then on the podcast, we'll answer them more in depth. So we're excited to do that. And also if you're watching this and you see my AG1 cup, this is not even here because it's sponsored. Christian was making fun of me. I actually just needed my AG1 today and I love it. So that was just actually kind of funny. He was laughing at me. He's like, you're not putting that in this shot for the whole time. I'm like, no, I actually just love it and I needed some. So I'm so excited to jump in and answer y'all's DMs. Okay, so the first question that I wanted to ask this was a good one. This is from Anne Martin, I think. Okay, and she said, is it okay for the girl to initiate? So here's my thoughts on this. This is just my advice. This is just my opinion, and I'm not saying this is truth, but I'm not this is in the Bible, I'm just saying this is just my opinion on this. I think that when it comes to girls initiating, do I think it's wrong? No, I don't think it's wrong. Do I think it's best? No. I think what it does when a girl initiates is it kind of sets you up to lead in the relationship. And I think and I believe in this is in the Bible. I do believe that the man should, in a lot of ways, lead in your relationship. Now, we as women have parts of relationships that will lead, and there are things about us that are so strong and so much strength. So I'm not saying we're lesser than anything like that, but I do think that a man's leadership is so important. And I've seen the blessing of that, the benefit of that. And so I do think if you initiate, sometimes that can set you up to be leading in your relationship, and it can kind of let the guy slack on, I think, his part of pursuing and his part of the pursuit, which I think is really important for him to do and to initiate and to be excited about doing and maybe even be brave enough to do and vulnerable enough to do. However, I do also think that you can give the guy confidence to initiate. I think you can give the guy confidence to lead. And so what I mean by that is if you're interested in a guy, do I think it's best for you to go tell the guy hey, let's go on a date and lead that and initiate that? Not really. But do I think it's okay for you to go and say hey, I'd love to get to know you. What's your number? I think that's great. I think that's giving him confidence to say hey, I'm actually interested in you. I'd love to get to know you, and then let him take it from there. And so I think, you got to give a guy a hint. You got to let him know that you're interested, that you like them, and then let them kind of take it from there. Let them plan the date. I mean, I remember when Christian and I met, and I am a very strong person, I guess, and I can tend to lead in a lot of scenarios that I'm in. I feel like if I walk in a room, I don't even mean to, but I just kind of start leading it, you know? I think that's just a part of my personality. And that's something I didn't want to be in a relationship, but I didn't really know. I knew I was either going to have to be intentional about not being like that, or someone was really going to have to step in and lead. And it was really amazing because when Christian and I started dating, like one of the things that I did was like, I let him know I was interested, obviously, by the way, that I responded to him every day, and we talked on the phone often, and, you know, I prioritized my time to be around him. But also, whenever it came to you asking me on a date, even though you were going to take me on a date in Nashville where I was living, it was very important to me that, like, he planned the date. And so, you know, you planned the whole date, which is really cool because whenever he came into town and took me on a date, he took me to this restaurant I'd never been to, and it was actually called Tupelo Honey, which is kind of sweet now that our daughter's name is Honey. So I don't know, I'm thankful that you led in such a way that I didn't even have to think about not leading. Like, you were just leading. It was just clear. It was obvious. And so it's kind of a long-winded answer to say, because it's more complex than this yes or no, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree because there is, you don't want to initiate and then to have that kind of trickle down to like leading the relationship, because I do think that there is, you know, something that a man is supposed to lead. But then again, there are so many different like ways to initiate, you know, like you said, of like, hey, we should, you know, what's your number? What about the initiation of like, you know, oh my gosh, are you ever going to ask me out? What about that? Is that like initiating something?
This is a little sassy flair, like.
Just like a little, you know, like, hey, you know, are you ever going to ask me out? Like,
Well, should I tell my first kiss story?
For me?
No, my actual first kiss.
No, you shouldn't share that.
This is hilarious in 7th
Sadie,
grade.
No,
you don't think?
No.
That's so funny.
No.
Really?
We're not sharing your first kiss story on the podcast.
It's funny.
No.
Okay.
I hope Anne is not a 7th grader asking if it is okay for a girl to
I know, me too, but I'm just saying it. No.
And if you are, it is completely okay.
I'm saying I regret this. I regret this because I took the reins of a situation.
No, we're not sharing. I don't want you to share that.
Okay. After further discussion, I've decided not to share.
Well, the next question actually flows perfectly.
I've decided not to share, but I won't share, but I will tell you this. With what Christian just said, is it okay for a girl to be like, when are you going to ever ask me out? Is it okay? Yes. Have I done stuff like that? Yes. Do I regret it? Yes, is the point, okay? The times that I was, like, impatient and just tried to, like, kind of take the reins of the situation, I look back and I'm like, that's cringe. And it's so cringe that Christian won't even let me tell the story for the sake of my own embarrassment. So, anyways, like, yes, do it, whatever. It's not right or wrong. And some of you might be like, hey, I got married because I did stuff like that. And that's great. So again, this is not like it's in the Bible, it's truth. This is just like, here's what I think. This is what I've experienced in my life. I'm grateful that Christian led our relationship and initiated things. I did feel like I had to give him the confidence to do so at times.
Yep.
So a little push, but it was just encouragement. And I think there is a huge difference. There's a huge difference between encouragement and manipulation. So it's one thing to encourage someone, you know, to lead well, and it's another thing to try to manipulate them into leading a relationship. And so just be careful. You know, you don't want to. If you have to manipulate someone into being in a relationship with you, then you should not be in a relationship with that person. Mm-hmm. You know, if you can encourage someone, you know, to take the next step to taking you on a date, then that's awesome. But to manipulate someone into a relationship is a horrible way to start a relationship.
Yeah, very good. All we'll say about that is that there's a popular song by Thompson Square that came out around the same time. That is all we will say. Okay, moving.
No one's gonna get this.
Moving on.
Okay, moving on. Okay.
Speaking of that, okay, here's our next question. Is there such a thing as right person, wrong time?
Yes.
100%.
100%. We were those people.
Yes.
If we would have met any other time before when we met, I don't think that, God is good, so it could have worked, but.
I think if we would have met in, like, elementary school, we'd have been, like, in love with each other.
You think? Okay, well, maybe any other time if we met, like, early on in elementary school, because I would think you were cute.
Yeah.
And I would like that you were athletic.
Yep, I won most athletic in 3rd grade. No big deal.
No big deal. We didn't have that award, but I might have won if we did.
Well, you've seen it. It's in our closet.
I know, I have seen it. He still has the trophy.
That is a complete joke. I do not have my most athletic.
No, but you do. I saw a picture on your phone the other day. I saw a picture.
Yeah, I favorited that. But...
I know. I was looking at your favorites. It was like me, Honey, Cabo, and then Haven, all this stuff. And it was like most athletic third grade.
Well, no, it was most athletic in third grade. But it was also fastest in the mile, and then it was most likely to become a rock collector.
I did see all those.
So I don't know why that was included.
I'm most proud
but
of
all
your
that to
rock
say,
collecting.
is there such a thing as right person, wrong time? For sure. We were joking about elementary school, but if we would have met, in the plan that I had wanted it to when I'd first met your sister, then I don't think it would have been the right time.
Y'all, I know it is fall, but in Louisiana, it is still hot. I'm fooling myself wearing a sweater. I have been working up a sweat still on the walks that we're going, but no matter why you are working up a sweat, you are still losing electrolytes, people. I'm still losing them every day here, and that's why Element is amazing. I love Element. It is a delicious electrolyte drink mix that has really everything you need and nothing you don't. Here's a little sample pack. I only have one because I have now drank all my other ones that I had at my desk. This stuff is awesome. It has no sugar, no coloring or artificial ingredients, no gluten or fillers, just a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. Electrolytes are super important for things like fluid balance, nutrients absorption, and hormonal regulation, plus hundreds more functions in your body. It's seriously everything your body needs to get back those electrolytes and eliminate headaches, muscle cramps, fatigue, sleeplessness, and other common symptoms of electrolyte deficiency. When we sweat, the primary electrolyte loss is sodium, and athletes can lose up to 7 grams per day. If it's not replaced, it can lead to some pretty awful symptoms like I just mentioned, but lucky for us, Element has our back. Element is formulated to help literally anyone who just needs a little bit more electrolytes, and it's perfectly suited for people following a keto, low carb, or paleo diet. All the things, it's for you. Element is used by a ton of people, from podcast hosts like me to professional athletes, Olympic athletes, to workout gurus like Christian, and really just anyone trying to live their best life. Honestly, the thing that got me hooked on this is whenever I was pregnant and even postpartum, I would just get so dehydrated, whether that was from nursing or just all the things with pregnancy, and I would have the worst leg cramps. And my doctor recommended taking something like an electrolyte, supplement, and I started trying Element, and it changed the game for me. Now I literally drink an Element every single day, and I do not have muscle cramps, and I just feel so much better when I feel hydrated. So y'all gotta check it out. Right now, Element is offering a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single serving packets free with any Element order. This is a great way to try all 8 flavors. We did this. That's how we realized our favorite Element. So get yours at drinkelement.com/whoa. This deal is only available through my link. You got to go to drink. That's just spelled like drink, DRINK. Element is spelled LMNT.com/whoa. Element offers no question asked refunds, so try it totally risk-free. If you don't like it, share it with a salty friend, and they will give you your money back. No questions asked. You have absolutely nothing to lose. Go try Element today. No.
I was a little. I was drinking milk. I was not yet solid food yet, from a biblical perspective.
Yeah, someone listening to this hasn't read that verse in the Bible is like, okay,
I was a newbie Christian.
I thought you were gonna say you were drinking, and then you said milk. I was like, what? I didn't even catch that.
That's what Paul says.
Bible jokes.
You're young in your faith. I was young in my faith, and then by the time we met, I was more mature.
It's true. And honestly, I was not in a good place. Like, we love to give you a hard time. I was not in a good place at all.
Thank you. We do give me a hard time.
We do. And I always say that. I was on a pattern of like just dating. I don't know. I don't even really know if it was a bad thing necessarily, but I was just trying to figure it out. Trying to figure out who I was wanting to marry, but I think I was trying to do that before I really figured out who I was and what I really wanted in a spouse. And so I think I was kind of dating for the sake of like just wanting to get married and not dating intentionally for like, okay, this is what I really want for my life. Like this is what I want.
You thought you were trying to put love first, but you weren't.
No, I was putting dating first before love even. And that's just marriage first. I think in my mind, and some of you might can relate to this, so many people in my family got married so young, which you might look at me and say, you got married young. But in my family, 18 is whenever most people in my family got married. I mean, my parents got married at 18. My grandparents got married at 18. My sister got married at 19. My brother got married at 19. Like, everyone was just getting married so young. And so, like, I'm 18 and I'm like, I want to get married. And then I just went through a breakup, and then I'm 19 and I want to get married. And then it's just not finding the right person. And then, I think I just so wanted to get married that I was like dating to like try to find this person. But in reality, I wasn't even doing it for the right reasons. It was more just to like get married. But I wasn't thinking like that's the biggest decision of your entire life. Like, this is the person you're going to spend your whole life with. And this is going to be like the father of your children. And so I think in some ways I didn't think like that because I was just like so pursuing marriage instead of like love itself. But in some ways I was thinking like that because that's why I dated so many people and broke up with them so fast, because I was like, this is not the one, this is not right, this is not the one. So anyways, I said it to say like some of you might be in that season where you're like, I just want to get married and so I'm just gonna date anyone, or I'm just gonna try to figure this out. And that's just so not wise. To getting married is a huge blessing, and God did design marriage, and there's so much beauty in marriage. But if it's the wrong person, then it's not good. If it's not healthy, if it's not fruitful, if it's not for the sake of building God's kingdom and making you better people, and then it's not good. You're taking the good out of the design. And so I think that I'm thankful that we didn't meet before then, because I don't think I quite had in my mind yet what I really wanted and needed, out of just what marriage actually meant more than a ring on my finger. And so it was sweet whenever we met, because I had just realized this epiphany of what I had been doing really just the day before we met. And I acknowledged it to my friends. And so we joke, I did this video, I'm not going to date anybody for 6 months. And then I met Christian the next day. And that's true. But the reason I said that is because I was acknowledging, man, I'm just doing this for the wrong reasons. And then I met Christian and I was like, oh, wow, he's really cute and everything. But I was like, pump the brakes. Like, I don't really know if I want to be in a relationship right now. And I was very clear with you on that. And so you initiated a friendship and you respected the boundaries of that friendship. And I did too. Like, we did not, we weren't overly flirty during that time. We weren't talking about relationship. We were literally talking about the Bible. We, and that might seem funny to some of y'all, but like, we really were like, I mean, no joke. We were reading through Proverbs together. So for 30 days, like, we were talking about Proverbs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So obviously we talked about other things and we joked and we laughed and we had a good time. But we weren't like flirting. We literally, our conversation was rooted in the things that we were studying together, the sermons we were watching together. So we built this foundation out of like a friendship of both wanting to have a better relationship with God individually and encouraging each other in that, which unintentionally maybe even set up our marriage to be so Christ-centered, because it was like, we're getting married for the sake of growing God's kingdom together as we grow each other, and because we truly are best friends. And I believe that like, you're the best person to lead me in this life, to be with me, and to like be the father of my kids. So it's just, it got more meaningful.
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, that's really good. And kind of like you had mentioned kind of on the last question, there are times where you do want to try to manipulate that, right? Like, you have a hunch that it's maybe the right person, but the timing feels wrong or something like that. So you kind of want to try to force it. And there's only so long that you can really force it before it kind of starts to unravel, But yeah, for us, we really relate with that question, because I do think that, and that there's for many people, we can look at a lot of our friends and, not speak for them, but we can say, well, if they would have met, at a different time, it wouldn't have worked out for, whether it's different seasons of life with school or work, or just, relationships with or their relationship with God from a maturity standpoint. Like, there's many people in our life that we can look at than that question.
And speaking of like forcing it, what's so interesting is like, I was in relationships where I would try to force to make it happen. But with Christian, what's so funny is it was like, one, I wasn't forcing it at all. It was so natural and it was just happening. But two, I think I was trying to come up with every reason why this shouldn't be happening right now because the timing wasn't right. And like, it was almost like, oh no, like this can't be happening. You know, the timing's not right. I'm busy. It's this, it's that, whatever. You're in college. I live in Nashville. You live in Auburn. Like, there's just so many reasons why like this probably shouldn't work, but it just did work. Like, I didn't talk myself out of it not working, and I didn't have to talk myself into it working. It just worked.
Well, you did try to, but...
I mean, I did try one time, and then you were like, stop talking, which I appreciated. I needed you to say that. But I think that, I think that sometimes we just overcomplicate things and overthink things, and whenever it's the right person, a lot of times it comes with just an ease, you know? And I will say, like, some of you listening, your relationship might have looked different at the start. It might have been a more forced thing, but yet, look at what God's done, and I think that's beautiful. I actually read from a very well-known Christian author. She wrote a blog one time about how, like, she didn't marry the right one, I guess, but, like, that's still her husband. And her whole thing was, like, you know, could we have married better people? Perhaps, yes. Like, I don't know that this person was the best person for me to marry. And it was a very shocking blog because she was just, like, saying it so honestly that it was almost like, whoa, like, I've never heard anybody say that. And she said, but, like, because we've found ourselves in the Lord and because we've anchored ourselves to, you know, Christ's design for marriage, like, we've created a beautiful life together and we've weathered through the hard times and we have amazing kids. And so, you know, you might have had a rough start. You might have forced things. It might have been manipulative. You might have even married someone that you're like, you know, could we have done better? Maybe. However, like, we committed. And so let's just make it an effort to be the best version of ourselves. Let's be better people. Let's, you know, come into the good design that God has and, you know, make our family a family who serves the Lord. And so there's God's story. There's always redemption, you know, so you didn't mess it up. You didn't screw it up for your life. There's always redemption and He always can bring you back to a solid foundation. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know we do not shy away from tough conversations to getting straight to the point and hitting things head on. And my husband doesn't either. If you listen to his 4 Men podcast, he talks a lot about the damage of pornography and how that affected his life, how that's affected many of his friends' life, and just actually doing something to help with it. It is so important that we have these conversations, and it's so important that we protect ourselves and each other and the next generation. We all need support. We all need accountability and community, and Covenant Eyes can give you all of those things. So no matter if you're a man or a woman, single or married, pornography can have a devastating effect on your well-being and relationships. No judgment at all. We all have our issues. We all have a past, but now we can help be the best version of ourselves and actually step into wholeness and freedom from that. A great step to take is to get Covenant Eyes on your devices. It's an accountability-based software that helps you achieve freedom from porn. Here's how it works. You sign up, then install the software on your devices. Next, you choose someone you trust to hold you accountable for the activity on your devices, and you're never alone on this journey, friends. I love that you get to have a friend involved in this with you. So don't let shame keep you from the life that God has for you. Take back your life, take back your marriage and your relationships by getting this app to help. Try it for free for 30 days by visiting covenanteyes.com, entering promo code WHOA, W-H-O-A at checkout. There's an app, but you're going to want to sign up on the website first. So that's covenanteyes.com and enter the promo code WHOA at checkout. We were watching this thing last night. We're doing a marriage series right now in our Sermon Squad group. And it was so cool because there was this, the way that it's done is it's Tim Keller. It's The Meaning of Marriage. Isn't that what it's called? Mm-hmm. And then it's like a Christian couple and a non-Christian couple. And they're all just talking about like the meaning of marriage. And the Christian couple was talking about the power of 3 strands, like a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And it says that in Ecclesiastes. And actually at our wedding, Louis had a strand for us, and, you know, we did the whole strand thing just as a representation of how a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. Well, the non-Christian couple said, you know, that's actually such a powerful thing. That's such a great idea and concept, because they were explaining how, you know, when they have conflict in their marriage or hard things in their marriage, what they do is they'll go to outside sources. And a lot of times those outside sources are two separate things for the both of them. So the husband might go to a friend, and then the wife might go to her friend. And so it's a good thing that they're both getting help, except for where they're getting help might be two completely different pieces of advice, and it might be two different directions. And so at the end of the day, even though they're getting help, they're not necessarily coming together in their marriage. And so the guy described it like this. He said, you see a stool with like 3 legs, it's always going to be like perfectly placed, right? There's no really room to wobble. But he was talking about how like a table at a restaurant with 4 legs, that you've all experienced it. You sit down at a table and you kind of put your arms down and it goes boom, it's like a little off somehow. And this is the non-Christian guy explaining this, and he goes, that kind of is our life a lot of times. When hard things happen, you just kind of feel that unleveled ground. So he said that's an attractive thought, to think that it would just be a cord of 3 strands. And I think that's the beauty of having a Christ-centered relationship, is that when the two of you fail, which you will, you do every day. You either fail yourself, you fail each other, you fail someone, you just fail. We're human, we're imperfect, we're flawed. What you get to do is you are tethered to God. He is the first in your relationship. How to put love first? How do we put God first? Because whenever we fail, we come to a solid ground. We come to a truth that's eternal. We come to a truth that's unwavering. And so when we struggle with things, instead of going to outside sources that might be good advice but lead us apart from each other, we're going to the same source that's eternally good, that's always the same, that never changes, the Word of God. And so I just wanted to stop for a second and share that, because I thought that was such a powerful thing last night on like why it's important for God to be at the center of your marriage. Because some people say like, oh yeah, like let's have God at the center of our relationship, but that's just a saying to them. That just means you go to church on Sunday. But to have God at the center of your relationship is not just like going to church on Sunday with your spouse. It's a 24/7. God is in our relationship. Like He is the third party in our relationship, and He is the most important thing in my life and the most important thing in your life, and the anchor and foundation of our marriage. So it's just so much bigger than sometimes we think about it when you think about just wanting to get married, And I think that's why people, you settle for men or women who are not godly, who are not rooted in the Word, because you just want to get married. But I just don't know that that's a good thing, which actually leads us to the next question. What if God's plan isn't for me to fall in love and end up with someone? So what do you think about for someone who's like, what if it's not God's plan that I get married?
That's a loaded question. We, at our wedding, your grandfather spoke to that a little bit.
Oh, yes. This was just so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing. My grandpa, so Papa Phil, some of you might have just seen the movie about his life. He is, he's an awesome man of God, but he is a little bit, he just says it how it is, okay? And it was just so funny because, I walked down the aisle. It's like the moment, and he was supposed to be saying the prayer whenever I get down there. Like he was going to say the beginning prayer. My grandpa, like my mom's dad, to Papa, who y'all might have seen on the podcast, was going to say the prayer at the end of the wedding. So I get down, and it's like this sweet, special moment, and he is like, well, Brother Paul says, and if you think about what someone might quote scripture at a wedding, even from Paul, you might think he was about to bust open 1 Corinthians and start talking about love is patient, love is kind. Yeah. Nope, not where my grandpa went. First thing he said was, Brother Paul said, it is better that you not marry, lest you burn with passion. It was so awkward. So, yes, that actually is in the Bible. Paul says, I wish that you don't get married. I wish you would be like me and just stay single, because then your love wouldn't be divided. Then you wouldn't have to, think about what your spouse needs and all these different things, as opposed to just being on fire and on mission for God. So actually in the Bible, Paul is like, it's actually better that you don't marry. But then he says, unless you burn with passion. So if you do find someone that you are absolutely in love with and you're burning with passion, and if you weren't to get married, then you would be living, sexually immoral. You would be sleeping with each other. You would kind of be outside of what God has for that. You'd be in this relationship, but you wouldn't be in covenant. So you would be not getting the fullness of what God has planned for two becoming one, then you should get married. And so that is what my grandpa lovingly stated at the beginning of our marriage.
No, that's so funny. But then again, too, there are, I think many times when you hear someone say that, you always can typically give just like the cliche answers of like, well, Paul didn't marry, and Jesus was never married, and they were content, they were satisfied. But then again, I think but it is, it is hard. Like if you do desire that, it's not necessarily just like a whimsical like, well, don't, Jesus didn't marry and he was happy. So I think there are things in it where it's like it is difficult. If you are, however old you are, if you're, getting older and you do desire that and God hasn't provided that, it can be stressful and frustrating and confusing, and all the things. But at the same time, if it's not the plan, I guess it's easier for me to say it because, we are married, but, there is a contentment that you can only find in God. And that's not trying to be, cliche or anything, but that's what the scripture talks about, not being, not having these idols because you can idolize anything. You can idolize a relationship and not have it. I can idolize Sadie and, kind of lose sight of what's the most important thing to me. But, I think just keep following God. And I think if you do truly desire that, I think he will provide it, and he doesn't always provide it. But yeah, it is,
That's good.
it is a hard thing. It's not, it's not really a cookie cutter answer of.
Yeah, and I think like knowing that God can provide and believing for him to provide those things that you long for. Like think about Abraham and Sarah, who got pregnant because they decided to have a baby, and she didn't get pregnant. She was like 90, right? And the in Hebrews it was referring back to that story, and it says something along the lines of like Abraham, like it was talking about how old they are, but it was like a funny.
I think it was like as good as dead.
Yeah, they're basically it says like they're as good as dead, and here they go having a baby. Like that's what God provided. God did provide. It wasn't the timing that they thought, but then not only did God provide, but who He provided, Isaac, right? Am I telling this story right? Abraham, Isaac, yes, Isaac. Like think about just all the things that came from Isaac in his life, like, and then the generations, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and you just go down the line, and it's like Judah and David, the tribe of Israel, and like all the things, and it came at a time that wasn't the time that they longed for it to come, but it was the perfect timing. And I always think about that with like kids, because some of my friends, are having trouble getting pregnant, and we always talk about just that God is gonna bring them at the perfect time. And how many times in your life, like, do you say, like, man, this is perfect timing? Like, it can just be flippantly, like, oh, this is perfect timing. And I'm like, perfect timing to me in my life happens because I was born at the time that I was born in, and that might not have been, like, my mom's thought of, like, what her perfect timing might have been. But for me in my life, like, it was perfect timing that I was born June 11th, 1997, because then I got to meet you whenever I met you. And so, like, sometimes, like, we don't understand the timeline like God does. God's outside of time. And so if you're longing for something and you're believing for it, like, keep believing him for it. But also know, this is what I pray a lot of times, God, if it's your will, then it will be done. If it is your will, then nothing can stop it from being done. And if it's not your will, then I don't need it, and I don't even want it. So if it's your will, it will be done. If it's not your will, then I don't need it. And if it's not your will, I don't want it. And that kind of like keeps me in a place of contentment, because there are things that I pray for where I'm like, God, I really long for this. I really want this. But at the same time, I know that if it's your will that I get this thing, then it will be done and nothing can stop it from happening. But I also know that if it's not your will and I'm asking you for this and it's not in your will that I have this, then I don't want it and I don't need it to accomplish the things that you put me on this life to do. I don't know about you, maybe you wake up and you're just totally rested, ready to go, but most people need a little something in the morning, or if anything, a little afternoon pick-me-up. Look, fam, everyone gets that afternoon crash sometimes. I think I'm having it right now, but AG1 is here to help with that. AG1 is an all-in-one nutritional supplement that replaces those handful of pills with one simple drink. We originally started trying it because it's so simple and so easy and has so many health benefits. Christian and I don't like a lot of complicated things. It's hard to because we travel a lot, so keeping up with pills or even gummies or whatever it is can kind of be complicated. And now it's a regular part of Christian's routine. He loves it. It's literally less than a minute. You put 1 scoop into a glass of cold water, and AG1 will give you a great boost of energy. It can actually help you focus. We love that it has 75 high quality vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source ingredients in just 1 scoop. All these things work together to support your immune system and improve your digestion and gut health. And if you follow me, you know I'm always talking about this. Gut health helps your mental health, and I always think anything we can do to help our mental health is a huge win, which is why we love the travel packs. I'll show you right here. They're super small, cute, easy. Throw them in your bag, take them with you. We've actually been traveling with them for a while, and Christian's even gotten different people in his family hooked on it just by seeing us travel around with it, because it's so many great health benefits in just one simple, easy thing. Another thing that we love that Athletic Greens has is vitamin D3 plus K2 drops. Y'all know I'm a big fan of vitamin D. It has helped me personally with my skin and my hair, nails, all of that kind of health, but it also helps your heart health, your bones, your teeth, and all of the important things too. All you have to do is just put a few drops into your water or to your food every day. Plus, this little bottle has 600 servings, so it's got you covered for a while. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Just try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 drops and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/woe. Again, that's drinkag1.com/woe to check it out today. And so for marriage, it's like, God, if it's your will that I get married, if that's something that you have for me, then Lord, I pray it will be done. And I pray that you would give me the contentment in this season to wait for that, and give me the confidence in the season to go for it. If it's on me, if I'm not putting myself out there, if I'm not pursuing relationship, if I'm not, positioning myself in places that I could meet someone awesome, then God, give me the strength to go do that. Give me the vulnerability, give me the courage, praying prayers like that. But God, if it's not your will that I marry, if that's not what you have for me in this life, then God, I don't need that. For me to know that I'm loved beyond measure. I don't even want that, because I don't want to be distracted from what you're going to do with my life. And that's not everything. You're everything, And so I think prayers like that are just so powerful. So you're asking God, you're believing God, and you're trusting God that He knows what's best for your life. Marriage, of course, comes with all of its hardship and hard things, and you're blending 2 families, and there's all of that. So there's hard things in marriage. Being single, there's hard things with that. There's hard things in all things. You got to have God's grace for both of them, and there's beautiful things to both things. Marriage, obviously, there's so many beautiful things that come with that, but being single, there's so many beautiful things that come with that, and opportunity. And so I think just trusting God that where He has you is good enough for you to be content, and it's not even just good enough, it's the best place to be, And so hopefully that helps you where you're at.
That's good.
Okay, let's see. All right, last question. Was wedding planning stressful on y'all's relationship?
I actually don't think it was stressful.
I don't
Really,
either.
at all.
I don't either, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that, but I will say this is really cool. So when we got engaged in June. Our wedding was in November, so we were living in Louisiana, both of us, during that summer. Christian was living with my parents. So it was nice because up until that point, we had been long distance the whole time. And so it was really nice to live in the same place for a little bit. So we were together that summer, but then he had to go back to college, to Auburn, for his senior year from August to November up until we got married. And that was that was a little bit hard for me. And I will say, I think we were talking about this on the podcast recently with Kane, the band that was on, and we were talking about how sometimes your anxiety about something is worse than what it actually is, and actually most of the time it is. It's the anxiety about what it might be is always worse than what it actually is like. And I just had so much anxiety about him going back to college after like spending a whole summer together and then being long distance for those 2 months right before we get married. I just was like, oh, it's not going to set us up well. You're going to be busy with school. I'm going to be busy with things and all that stuff.
It was really like 4 months. But
yeah, 4 months. Yeah, it was 4 months because August, September, October, and most October, of November. So 4 months. Yeah. So that scared me. And I wish I didn't overthink that. Like, I wish I didn't have so much anxiety about that season because it actually really wasn't bad. And honestly, I don't even really remember those 4 months that much.
I was so content. I was like, hey, we're engaged. I know. We're getting married.
I think that's a girl thing, I got like
3 classes this fall.
You were great.
I'm great.
I was a little bit more stressed about it. Which, looking back, I wish I wasn't because... And I look back at those 4 months, I actually don't remember anything stressful. I actually just remember like really fun things that we did, like road trips from Nashville to Auburn and just the different things that we did. And so that was just silly, and that's something I wish I didn't overthink. But one thing that was cool during the midst of me overthinking it and being a little bit anxious about it is I was like, okay, why don't we like have prayer books for each other or not, it's like kind of a prayer, but also just like notes for each other and thoughts for each other. And each day, we can just kind of write to each other. And whenever we get married, we can give each other the books, and then we can know like what we were thinking about each other all this time and like praying for each other. So I actually forgot we did that, and which is kind of funny because that was really sweet. But I like totally forgot we did that. And then when I was packing boxes this week, I saw the journal and I was like, oh my gosh! And I couldn't even remember what it was, and I saw it was like dated September 2019, October 2019, November 2019, and it was like, all these thoughts that Christian was having for me and all these like really sweet notes and prayers, and then leading up to November, and it was like, I can't believe I get to marry you this week. I was like, just so sweet. And I think that sometimes, I don't know if everyone's like this, but I think as girls sometimes we can get like this where, and I know actually more people are like this than just me because there are like, reels on Instagram and memes and all this kind of stuff. And it's like what she thinks we're doing. And it's like the guys partying. And then it's like what we're actually doing. And it's like the guys just doing something like so silly and stupid and innocent. And I think sometimes like for me, I definitely was like that. And some of that came from actually dating guys who would have been doing the thing that was not good, whenever they told me they were doing something else. And so some of it was from past hurt or past, experiences actually happening. But sometimes I would put that on Christian. And so I would be thinking, oh gosh, he's probably doing ... And like, I look back at that and one, you weren't. You had such a great group of friends and were so anchored in your faith and who you were. But then also I look back at like the notes you were writing me and I'm like, why would I have overthought like what you thought of me? Why would I overthought like your love for me? And so I don't know. I look back at that time of my life and I hate the insecurities that I walked through, the insecurities that I felt. And because I really just needed to trust the man that he was and the relationship that we had. And so did I have a stressful time planning the wedding? Not really. I'm not really detail oriented. I wasn't like stressed out about what it would look like. I knew it would be beautiful and it would all work out great. And I was super excited about our marriage. I just more so had a more stressful engagement from the time of like me just getting over insecurities that I felt. And that's just honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because when you get engaged, it's like it's that much more real. Like you're one step closer. We always say like dating is more refining than being single, at least for us, like being in a serious relationship just from sacrifice and being selfless and those kind of things. And then engagement was more refining than dating, and then marriage has been more refining than engagement, and then now having kids is way more refining than all of them. But yeah, engagement season, it's just the tension of that you're just one step closer to the covenant, and even engagement to some extent still partly that, maybe, kind of. I don't really know all the ins and outs of the spiritual side of just maybe being engaged. I don't really know. Kind of rambling. But being engaged, like, it is, there is more pressure of, like, it can be easier to be insecure about things because, there is a ring on your finger and you are trying to plan this moment where you will make these vows that will be forever while you're on the earth.
Yep.
So yeah, wedding planning wasn't really stressful. We also had just a lot of help personally, just planning the wedding.
Speaking of, I literally put your ring in my pocket this morning because you forgot it.
Thank you. Well, I forgot it. I had Bible study at 7. I woke up at 6:53. I was 20 minutes late.
I know, but you can't be cruising around town without that ring on your finger, boy.
Well, I had no ring on my finger, and I did not brush my teeth, so. I was 20 minutes late without a ring. I'm
great.
in slides.
No, you didn't brush your teeth.
No, I was late. I didn't have time.
But I will just say to wrap this up, and that's so good, Christian. I think that, this is a lie that we tell ourselves, is that, I will be content if I get the next thing in life. It's like, okay, if I get accepted into this college, then I'll be happy, then I'll be content. And then you get there and it's all crazy. Or it's like, if, I have a boyfriend, then I'll kind of chill out. I'll be content. If I get married, then it's like, if I get engaged, if I get married, then it's like, when we have a baby, when we move houses. And it's like, you can just get into this trap in life of always thinking that something's going to bring you your happiness. Something's going to bring you contentment. Something's going to help you stop overthinking finally. Something's going to help you stop being insecure. Something's finally going to help you, have peace. And truly, no, I don't believe that anything in this world that's fleeting and temporary can bring you that, and into the fullness that God can. And so when we talk about putting love first, the importance of it is knowing, like, before I get the ring on my finger, I know I'm loved because of my relationship with the Lord. Before I get into that college, I have peace because I have peace that surpasses all understanding because my God is the God of peace. Before I have children, I know that the Lord is a provider and He's creating a family within me. It's like knowing that God provides all that you need before He even provides it in maybe the way that you're longing for Him to. Like, He provides it in and of Himself. Like Jehovah Jireh, He's the provider, but the provision is who He is, And so I think about that in my mind. It surprised me that I had those insecure thoughts because I thought when I'm engaged, I'm not going to have those thoughts. When I have a ring on my finger, it's done. Like, I'm getting married. It's established. He chose me. And I just thought, I'm not going to be insecure. I'm not going to overthink things. I'm not going to be jealous of other people because I know He chose me. But ring does not fix that problem. That's a heart problem. That's a mind problem. And so I can't rely on a ring to heal all the wounds of my past because it's just not going to. And so I think that was a wake-up call for me to go, oh, wow, like, me being engaged doesn't solve the problem and the insecure things in my heart. Like, I got to get that healed from the Lord. So I had to really seek that in God and let Him heal that in me so that I could go into marriage strong. And so I just think, whatever season you're in, whatever you're longing for in the next season to bring you, like, find it before you even get there in God. Let God be that provision in your life today before maybe even what tomorrow brings. So that way, whether you get a ring or not, you're good. Whether you get accepted or not, you're good. Whether you get fired or not, you're not a failure. You're good. And so I just think that that's a really important lesson to learn in life. And you might have heard people say that before, but like, hear it today as like another reminder to you, whatever it is that you're clinging to be your sustainability is probably not going to be able to reach the depths of your soul like God only can. And so that was good. Thank y'all for sending in questions. Please keep doing this. You can DM the Whoa That's Good podcast page on Instagram, follow along, and send us any question. We can talk about any topic that y'all want. It's always fun to get to hear kind of the things that y'all are thinking about and searching for answers in. There were so many other great questions. We just kind of took 4 today that we thought were something that we could speak into a little bit. But we appreciate y'all. I hope that you'll go out and get our book, How to Put Love First, and look for the announcement that we're talking about on Instagram because I think it's going to be really fun and we want you guys to be a part of it. So look forward to fun things to come. And if you haven't bought the book, buy the book. This is a great way to let publishers know that you like what we're putting out so we can keep putting out more. So we love you guys, appreciate y'all, and thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.